On this episode of Kevin Goes, we're taking you to Halifax with a quick stop in Ottawa. Once we reach Halifax, we're going to tour the waterfront, the Citadel, eat some food, and ultimately packing as much as we can in 48 hours. And the main reason we're here is for my best friend Vince's wedding.
Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to Halifax, and I'm going to take this to Billy Bishop.
This weekend begins with the bike share bike. It's one of the fastest ways to get around Toronto, especially around this time. This was around 5:30 a.m., and I'm on my way to Billy Bishop Airport. For this trip, all I had was my camera bag and this small backpack full of my clothes. And from my house, you get to see some beautiful views, such as the CN Tower from the Bathurst Street Bridge. If you are going to take the bike share bike, make sure that the dock nearest your destination has some empty slots. This particular day, which was a Friday, all of the spots down by Billy Bishop were taken up, so I had to dock the bike at Lakeshore and Bathurst Street, which is about a 5-minute walk from the airport. Despite this, the bike share system is really amazing. However, if someone from bike share is watching this, we could really use an improved docking situation down at the airport. Once you're at the airport, you're greeted by a very well-lit terminal. For those that don't take bike share, you can take a taxi cab right up to the door. And once you get through check-in and security, you're greeted by a well-lit boarding area, and if you didn't grab any coffee or a snack beforehand, they've got you covered. And since this is such a small airport, you can show up about an hour before your flight, and before you know it, you're sitting in your plane seat. And on Porter Airlines, it's pretty spacious. Taking off from Billy Bishop Airport is a pretty magical moment. You get to see the CN Tower, Ontario Place, along with the beautiful waterfront. And with every flight, you get a free snack and beverage. Usually I go for the beer, but at this time, I just chose to go for some club soda and some chips. And since this flight was so short, we were in Ottawa in no time, about 45 minutes. And since my layover was so short, I literally ran out of the terminal to get to the bus. And while Ottawa is not known for its public transportation, the OC Transpo has a great bus that follows a dedicated road for buses only. But in the near future, there'll be a train directly connected to the airport and to downtown. I don't think many people would consider Ottawa's transit system magical, but this path that it took was pretty serene. But not too long, I had to get onto a local bus. But that meant finally getting to see Parliament Hill for the first time. And my goodness, it was more impressive than I thought. And sadly, since it took about an hour on transit, my layover was already down to 2.5 hours, so I had to make it real quick. I got quick glimpses of the Confederation Building, West Block, Center Block, and East Block, two of which share the Victorian High Gothic architecture, East and West Block, while the Center Block uses Gothic Revival. They use this unique architect style so that people could be reminded about parliamentary democracy. It was also said that it was to contradict the United States' Republican neoclassicism architecture style. And my most favorite part about coming onto this little trip was the Rideau Canal. This is a World Heritage Site, and it's famous for both tourists and boat users. And in the winter, if it does completely freeze over, it's opened up as an 8-kilometer long skateway. But let's not talk about winter. I got the lucky chance to see them start opening the canal, and this is for the boats that are behind me to go to the Ottawa River. Unfortunately, I really had to start moving back to the airport, so I just got to see this little moment. Another great feature of Parliament Hill and the precinct are the amount of bronze statues in the area. While I won't be going over any of them in this video, you can find a great guide on Canada's website, which is, uniquely, canada.ca. And before I head back to the bus, I really wanted to check out the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. World War I is definitely not one of the topics I'm very well versed in. However, I do know that it was an incredibly gruesome time and that Canadian soldiers did go there to fight. So in the year 2000, Canada designed this memorial as a dedication to all those that fought. Sadly, that was just about it. And something I've learned about this layover is take a cab. Transit here was very slow, so I was at the mercy of that the whole time. And I had the unfortunate seat of 11D on Porter Airlines to Halifax. Do not recommend, so we're just going to hop straight to Halifax. If you didn't know, Nova Scotia's background is primarily Scottish. I mean, it's in the name. Nova Scotia means New Scotland. So we're going to go with the theme of Scottish music. If you've ever been to Halifax, you probably know that the drive from the airport to downtown Halifax is probably the most scenic part of the entire trip. That's not to say Halifax isn't pretty. It's really gorgeous. And another first for this trip is crossing a suspension bridge. And this one has a pretty badass name. The Angus L. MacDonald Bridge. This was built in the 1950s and is still going strong. It has undergone some major renovations in the past, but it is still looking as gorgeous as ever. There's also a secondary bridge just north of here. One of my least favorite parts about any trip is accommodations. Halifax was one that really scared me. If you didn't know, Halifax has some of the highest hotel rates in the country. So I turned to what a lot of people use, and that's Airbnb. And I found this unbelievably rustic and gorgeous 2-bedroom apartment. And boy, it did not disappoint. Sure, it didn't have air conditioning, but so little time was spent in this space that all that really mattered was a comfortable bed. And the host was also extremely responsive. But we had zero issues and had little to ask. Oh hey, there's my partner Alicia. One of my favorite features of this place was the newspaper wall. It had some incredibly interesting news clippings. Some really funny, some dark. It took a little while to read through them, but I thought it was worth it. Okay, that's enough about that Airbnb. One of the most striking features of the north end of Halifax was the architecture of its homes. Many of the homes are in the style of Scottish dormers, which is the most popular architecture in Halifax. Not every house is like that. We also came across the Halifax Armory, and there was a great juxtapose between new and old buildings, with many, many new developments happening. There's also the famous Citadel, which is a national park, but that's an adventure for tomorrow. Another striking feature of downtown Halifax is how hilly it is. And it was unfortunate to see that the transit here was so bad. It might not be the best place if you have mobility issues, so definitely plan ahead. But our ultimate goal was to get at a Halifax donair, and we kind of picked a off-the-beaten-path place called Classic Pizza. But it was so nice that we opted not to eat in the store, so we walked a couple blocks to a really nice park.
So I'm here in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
I'm a little out of focus. Apologize. Brand new camera. New at this vlogging thing. We'll get past it. Thank you.
Always hated donairs, and I'm finally in the right place to try the right thing. Where did we go? Classic Pizza on Lower Street. Anyway, it's finally time to try a real donair. And Jesus Christ, this is unbelievable.
Oh yeah, they did it good. Let me see.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's yeah. That's
Oh
textbook.
my God.
That's a textbook donair.
This is, I'm gonna need a shower after this.
Good one.
Ooh. Okay, that is supreme. Yeah, that is a good donair.
And what's a good donair without a great story? This is how I met Vince.
Ours.
I met Vince like 8 years ago now.
9 years.
9 years ago
Actually,
now.
this might be the what do you call it? Anniversary. It was 2014 in Chicago. I got off the plane. I didn't know anybody. I kind of like weaseled my way into this like bike tour thing with these couriers. I land in Chicago, and then we're supposed to meet the people in Chicago at the courier place, and then we were going to drive to Milwaukee, and then we were going to bike from Milwaukee to Minneapolis. So the first guy I meet is fucking Kevin.
Oh my god.
And then fucking what happens is he got me a shot of Malort, you know. I forgot to bring a wrench for my bike. We went to like some weird like furniture place, this family-owned furniture place. They lent us a wrench, and then we got on the bus. I didn't know anybody except for Kevin, and then we biked, and he was like my buddy there the whole time, and now we've been buddies ever since. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Went on a bike tour, and
I
like
didn't know that, and then that's how you met your wife.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then he came up and worked. He worked for Sended and met Alicia, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Really great story. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's he is the number one reason why I'm in Canada.
D Squad, baby. Remember? We was like on the bike tour. There was the good people. They were the A Squad, and then there was us getting flat tires and smoking weed, and we were the D Squad. That was our symbol.
If you ever have the pleasure to meet Vince, he is one incredible guy. And we'll see him once more in part 2. One of the biggest things that this trip really made me realize is cherish your friends. Go on experiences with them. Do stupid and silly things. Love each other. And just be there for one another. After all, that's all we really have. Anyway, before I go way too deep, I'm going to do a really quick trip to Dartmouth. So, I'm from Toronto, and I think we can all agree that the ferry experience to the island is not great. Complete opposite in Halifax. Now, let's keep in mind, I only took this about 4 times on my trip. So, maybe it's a little different for the everyday user, but in my experience, it was incredible. And for an adult fare of $2.75, this offered some of the best views of Halifax. And some very good to know facts. Monday through Friday, you can choose between Woodside or Alderney Landing. I wanted to go to downtown Dartmouth, so I chose Alderney Landing. And this is kind of the end of the day for me. So I'm going to leave you with some beautiful drone footage of both Dartmouth and downtown Halifax. And if you liked what you've seen, please subscribe for more. Part 2 comes out next week.